Hello, everybody. Hi, Joan. Hi, Carol, Terry, Purple Nana, Terry. Hello, hello. Good to see you all. How are you? Hope you're doing well. It's been a bit of a rush here since I got going this morning, but what's new? Good to have you guys here. Hello, Shu. Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm waiting for something to print on my printer, and it's taking its own sweet time. So it'll either print or it won't. Oh, anyway, it's good to see you all. Hi, Rhonda. Good to see you. Yeah. I've been up since early this morning for me, and so my throat's a little froggy because I haven't talked a whole lot, but you know, it is what it is. Do not know why this thing is not printing for me. Who knows? It either will or it won't. We're gonna act like it's gonna print. Anyway, Drama Free Friday. I'm Barb. If you're new watching, welcome. Glad you're here. It is a beautiful day outside today. Sunshine, beautiful, wonderful, and all my stuff is unpacked here. That's a good feeling. I have to say, it feels really good to have all the boxes unpacked. I'm not saying everything is totally settled, but it's a whole lot more settled than it was. Hi, Ruth. Yeah. Oh, Jinx has been up since 4. You beat me by quite a bit. Yeah, you surely did. 4 o'clock. Yikes. That's like crazy. That's crazy. Anyway, it's good to see you all. I'm glad you are here. Anyway, sound and everything seems okay to you guys? Sound and picture? Everything's okay? How can I be inside on a beautiful day? Well, that's just the nature of life. That's life. Okay, so as I was going through stuff, I thought, I found some things I thought I would show you. And good to see you, Miss Ruth. I'm glad things are going okay. Shu's doing good. Everything sounds okay and looks okay. Okay, good. Good. So I found some stuff. I thought, oh, we'll walk down memory lane for a quick second, and then we'll go from there. How's that sound? I had several things to show you. I think I'm going to show you what's on my desk right here. So to start with, this is a card that somebody brought back to me from a trip that they went on. And I think it's just a really cool idea. And I thought you guys might find inspiration with this little card. Okay, now what I want to do is put it up like this so you can see it. Okay, so here is the card, and you can see it opens up, right? And are you ready for the trick? That's how it opens up. I know it's very light. I think it's done in maybe a watercolor and colored pencil. But isn't that fun? Isn't that a neat image, the way that does that? How the cat's face becomes the eye of the fairy or the elf or whatever it is. Yeah. Isn't that cool? Anyway, so I just thought I would share that with you. I found that in my stash. Oh, stuff. And I thought, oh, I'll show it to you guys. Another thing I wanted to show you was, this was something a friend of mine did several years ago. There was a group of us that always got together on once a month. We don't do it anymore, but we did for a long time. And we went to her house for this one holiday celebration. And so I thought I would show you this because she got it from someplace else and then reformatted it a little bit. And then I took what she had and I reformatted, and actually, Race reformatted it when we were out there for Christmas in 2024. And so one of the things we did was fill this out, put it in an envelope, and seal it up. And then the idea was you were supposed to open it the next year and see how many of the things you wrote down actually had happened. Well, we weren't together the next year, so the whole thing kind of lost its appeal, but it's still a really, really cool idea. So if you get together with a bunch of people, or some people, or even a few people, you might enjoy this. So it's Make-A-Wish. Christmas is a wonderful, magical time of year when dreams and wishes come true. Wouldn't it be great to keep that Christmas magic throughout the year, throughout the whole year? If you believe in Christmas magic, then write down things you wish would happen in your life during the upcoming year. Seal them in an envelope. 1 year from now, you will open the envelope and see how many wishes came true. So then you put your 5 wishes and then a bonus wish if you want to. Anyway, it's just for fun. So it's kind of like Santa Claus. It's for fun. So I thought I would share that with you as an idea. Let me see if my thing ever printed. No, it's either the computer's not communicating with the printer, or the printer's on strike. I don't know. Anyway, we won't worry about it. Okay, moving on. I'll make do without that. So these are just some things that I found as I was going through stuff, organizing things, putting things away. And so that's why I'm showing them to you for ideas or inspiration or whatever. This was something we did 1 year. I don't have a year dated on it. I would have to go back, but we did it on stream. And that was to jelly plate print a background in shades of pinks and oranges and reds and that kind of thing. And you can see the hand stencil or hand mask in the back, which I just love those little hands. And once that was done, and this was done on pre-folded, pre-made cards. And then this is actually a pin. So it's a pin that can be taken off and worn, or just decorated. You know, it decorates the card. You can see the pin back in there. Hello, Peggy. Good to see you. So this is a piece of felt in the back, a piece of felt in the second layer. The middle layer is that old cutter quilt that I've done a whole bunch of things out of. So that's a cutter quilt piece. And then this is a hand-painted porcelain button. Back when I used to have a retail store, one of my customers she was a porcelain painter, did beautiful porcelain work, and so I asked her to make some porcelain buttons for me. And she did quite a few porcelain buttons. The hearts were my absolute favorite that she did. And she did them in all different colors of roses. So pretty. Anyway, so that was another idea where you can incorporate the gift with the card if you wanted to. So these are, like I said, just ideas for things that were from previous streams and things, and I'm not sure that all of these were on YouTube. Some of these were probably on Ustream. And this was making an envelope. This was out of a paper bag. You can see the markings from the paper bag. This was making a letter in an envelope all in one. And these were done with just, you can see the marks. This was just scraped paint. This one definitely looks like camouflage, doesn't it? But then it folds up. You can see here's part of the bag here, the one of the edges of the bags. Folds up, and then you cut a slit, and the slit accommodates the flap, and the little dot on there just helps to hold it. So the dot is glued to the flap, but not all the way. So it works as part of the closure. Anyway, so if you want to write a letter, a special letter to somebody, or, you know, include a special letter, or you want the gift to be the letter, that's one way to do it. Here's another one. So these were all the same. These were from Hy-Vee, Hy-Vee grocery sacks. So here's another one. Same thing, exactly, with a flap and a circle that's partially glued down and a slit in the envelope or the letter, and making it look as awkward as possible. This time of year my hands start getting a little sore from the dry weather, and so sometimes I find it a little challenging to grip stuff. There's that one. I won't struggle with the rest of them. Here's another one. So each one's different. And I don't remember if all of these came out of one grocery bag. They probably did, but I don't remember for sure. Anyway, so those were one idea. Then we also did some other ones. I think these are, yeah, these are grocery bag too. You can see the grocery bag thing there. And so these were just made into like a oversized coin envelope and stitched. So I stitched on the sides and cut a flap. I mean, they're very simple. And then cut, I don't know, probably 2 layers of the grocery sack and glued them together, I'm guessing. And then they're put on there with a brad, a decorative brad. That's what that little thing in the middle is, a decorative brad. This is a piece of, could be tape, probably was tape that I created. And then some pearl cotton to hold it closed. So there's that one. And that size, I'll tell you the envelope. This envelope size is looks like just over 4 by 6, just over 6. So this is all just a little bit over a postcard size. This one is just over 4.5 by 6.5. So just over 4.5 by 6.5 this way. So there's that one. And this one is it's a different size. It is 6 3/4 by 7 1/4. So there's that one. Hey, Kathy. Same exact thing. So it has a piece of, I don't know if that was tape or it looks like a piece of washi tape, but I'm not sure. But same kind of thing. The closure is 2 circles, which I'm sure were layers, and pearl cotton, then the circles are put on with a decorative brad. In this case, it looked like buttons. So there's that one. You just ignore the creases in the bag and you just work around it. So it's recycling, upcycling, whatever. There's another one. I think these two are about the same size. Well, no. One's a little narrower than the other, same length, but this one's narrower. And I'm pretty sure these are tapes that I made to decorate the edge. And then put a little piece on the inside. There's probably a piece on the inside of this one. Yeah, and in this case, it's not round. They're not circles. They're little rectangles for the closure. And here's this one. So this is the process. So this was just a strip, and you could see that I ended up cutting something out of that. And so this will be used for something else because it's not much good to have a couple holes in it. And here's another one. So this is that one that looked like camouflage. But they're all just scraped paint. And this one I probably, I don't know, I cut or punched something out of this for something else. So it's just a piece of, it's just scrap now. So anyway, there you go. There's some ideas. Pick a color scheme and scrape the paint one color at a time. Scrape the paint on the craft side, the fully craft side of Grocery Sack, and then scribble over it some kind of big designs, and this was done with, they're done with these, the tulip fabric paint with that little tiny nozzle. So if you can't get these anymore, which I'm not sure they're still available, if you can't work with those, you can always get some paint and put it in a little bottle with a little tiny tip on it. Hello, Signa. Norway. It's so good to have you join us. It's so much fun to have people join us from all over the world, you know? So there's those that I found. And then this is a real blast from the past. This is a real long time ago. Real long time ago. This was based on or inspired by a magazine article, probably Cloth, Paper, Scissors, but I don't remember for sure. And this whole thing, much of this is made, well, it's all made with stuff that I printed or painted. And a lot of it is fabric paper. Like all of these in here are papers of some kind. The pin's still in it. I haven't even sewed this one up. This was my prototype. A lot of these were jelly plate printed fabrics, and it turned out to be kind of wonky, but you know, it could be a gnome house. It even had a door. Yeah, very wonky. It was just something that I made based on what the magazine article was. And so this was my prototype to see how it worked. I did not finish it. They're stuffed. They're soft, stuffed with fiberfill. And then I remember making one, sending it to Dee Dee Willingham. Long time ago. Ustream days. Ustream days. This isn't puff paint. This is dimensional fabric paint, but it's not the puff paint. So it's different than the puff paint, because I know I've seen the puff paint in the local craft store, but this is just dimensional fabric paint. So it's a little different than that. But the puff paint might work fine. I don't know. I haven't used it. Anyway, so there's that. And then, long time ago, I mean, I'm talking more years than I can remember ago. I bought these patterns that I thought were so cool, and they were. Yep. We were both streaming back then, weren't we, Carol? Sure were. A long time ago. I bought these patterns. There was a whole collection of these patterns. There was a bear, a kitty, a rabbit. I don't know what the other ones were. I don't remember. I don't even think I saved the patterns. They were, I don't even know what company they were from. Anyway, the cat, I remember, was Witty Kitty. And they were made out of the Kunin felt, which is that semi-fuzzy but not looped. It was different than your regular craft store felt. And so I made the cat, and you could buy the pattern that contained the buttons. They all had wooden buttons, because then you made one outfit for the stuffed animal. They were big. I don't remember how tall they were, but they were big. They were probably over 2 feet, maybe 3 feet tall. The cat was named Witty Kitty. I remember that. And I know I made Witty Kitty, and you even sharpened like a little, like an 1/8 inch diameter dowel rod. You cut it into pieces and sharpened it, and then glued those into the paws. Those were the claws. And then I painted like toenails on the cat. I don't know. Anyway, I don't think I saved the cat, but I saved her jackets, because you could make these jackets, and then you could change out her outfit by changing her jacket. And so this is kind of my early step into slow stitching. So I saved the jackets. I thought I'd show them to you. I don't know why I saved them, because I don't have anything to put them on. But there was so much work involved in them that I saved them. So these were done in felt, and everything, you create the whole thing, right? The buttons came, they were just little wooden buttons. There's 4 jackets, I'll show you. But I just thought they were cute. And you had all the patterns for all the little pieces, and then you decorated it the way that you wanted to, like whatever stitching or whatever fabrics or whatever. Okay? Hi, Dana. Hello, Miss Dorothy. Good to see you. So this is a button, this little mouse. So I had to paint all the buttons, and I put twine on the back for the whiskers. This says fresh fish, and so I don't know what season this was for. Maybe this was her dressy jacket. I don't know. And so this is her menu to order from. Monday's fish, Tuesday's fish, Wednesday's fish, Thursday's fish, and Friday's fish. So here is her little plate, silverware, a cup with a piece of fish. And then on the other side, I don't know if you can see because the contrast is not great between these, but those are fish bones. And so all the work is on the front of the jackets, but they're blanket stitched around the edges. So when I had a big debate over whether to keep the cat. I think the cat went to Goodwill, I think. There was just only so many things that I could keep. And here's this jacket with kitty faces on it and kitties all over it. And these are painted. A couple of mouse faces, those are buttons. I think these were put down with fusible web. This is meow. So this kitty's only half on the front on that side, and the other half is on the other half of the front. I can't even tell you how much work. I don't even know what possessed me to make these, to do this whole thing. But I kind of think the only one I did was the cat. I was going to do them all because I thought they were adorable. And I think after I got all the cat's clothes done and stuff, I was like, no, I don't think so. Okay, so there's the second jacket. Here's the third one. This one had, they all had a lot of work, but this one had an especially lot of work in it. So this is the lodge, and this is a little cabin and a little Christmas tree. These Christmas tree buttons, I had to paint those, put on clouds. This says boats for rent down here on this little sign. There's another fish button and fish down here in the water. And this is a kitty fishing with a little, an embroidered fish hook down there. All the fish, everything's separate, little appliques. And this is the SS Kitty, it says on her boat. Snow, water, yeah. A lot of work in that little thing. You can see why I decided I couldn't really throw them away or donate them. And then this is the last one. They might have, maybe they were seasonal. I don't remember. Anyway, buttons, they're bows, wooden crows or birds of some kind. I painted them like crows. Fence. All of these are separate little pieces put on here, and then embroidery stitches, just running stitches or whip stitches to hold things in place. And I put little buttons on this to act like a plant. And probably this was, I'm guessing that I did this pretty much just like the pattern called for, but I don't remember. Hey, Tink. Working and lurking. Good to see you. I have to make something to wear them. I'd probably, at this point, I would probably just buy a stuffed animal that I thought it would fit. I should have probably kept the cat, but I didn't. Anyway, there are the jackets I did to go on one stuffed animal of all things. Is that crazy? Do any of you guys do things like that are just like totally that insane? Where you go, why? I don't even remember. Why my surface is dirty. I don't even remember why I did that. I don't remember how long it took. I don't remember when I did it. Too long ago. Too long. Anyway, there you go. Okay, so let's look at the journal, the gnome journal, shall we? The gnome journal. It's not the gnome journal. It's Barb's holiday journal. Okay, I don't see any questions. Dorothy had a bulletin board in 1979. I still have bulletin boards. I still have them because I like them. I like having a place I can just stick things on the wall, or, not on the wall, but stick them to something so I can see it when I want to. Okay, so here's the journal that I'm going to show you. I still don't have the Christmas tree stuck on the front. I have not glued it on yet, but it's getting closer to getting glued on. Okay. So here's the little journal. this is the theme of this journal is going to be gnomes, letting gnomes be a part of this. And this is a holiday journal, kind of like a December daily, except that it's going to go from Thanksgiving through the first part of January. And I'm just getting it ready for that. And I've made it up as I've gone along. All of it has been recorded here. Oh, an online bulletin board. Oh, gotcha. Wow, 1979 you had an online board? Wow. Good for you. So what I've been doing is I decided that I was going to stitch around the outside edges. And so I did. So let's see if you can see this a little bit easier here. This is the front. You can see why I need to have the tree on the front of it. Because I want to know where the front is. First glance, I want to know where the front is. So the tree is going to go on the front. So this is the stitching that I ended up doing. It is basically a buttonhole stitch, and I've gone this far, so I've gotten this far, and I've gotten this far, so I have this much left to do. Okay, let me do it this way. I have this much left to do, so not a whole lot. Everything else is done. And I decided to keep the flaps and the front and the back pretty much the same. This one on this side is all stitched down. So I did the buttonhole stitch all the way around it, and then just kind of whip stitched here on the bottom and the top. So these flaps are here, so if I have stuff that I want to, because I am terrible about sticking stuff in my journal that I want to hang on to or put in the journal, and so this gives me a place to do that. But that is what I did. And the way that I did this buttonhole stitch, and I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, and I'm not saying that I've done the best job in the whole wide world about this journal buttonhole stitch, and I'm not saying it's even the same all the way around the outside edge. I may have changed the way I did it 2 or 3 times. Hey, Connie. But I decided that it was, I'm living with the fact that it is hand stitched, it's slow stitched, and it may be real good and it may not be real good, and I'm okay with that. But what it is going to do is make that outer edge more durable, because I do plan to handle this a whole lot. So I decided that it needed more than I had done here, which was just a utility stitch on the sewing machine, which is just holding the edges together. This way, this is thicker and more substantial. So that's what I did. Okay? All right. So we're going to open this up, and I'm going to prop it up so it's a little easier for you to see. Maybe when Race is here, Race is coming here before long. We're going to be adjusting lights and so forth. Now that I've been working with this system for a while, I realize what things we need to adjust, and we'll be doing that while he's here, I think. Anyway, until then, we're going to just keep on keeping on. So I thought what we would do is paint this little guy. And then I was in a restaurant the other day, and there was a tree that was decorated for autumn. And hanging on the tree was this little guy. And I thought, I think we should have this one in this journal, don't you think? Is that not the cutest thing? The hat is it's like a cornucopia. I just think it's too cute. So I think we should put this little guy in here. Now this size, what I was trying to do with my printer was to get the size to be better. That one's too big. This one is kind of smallish. So we may kind of see if we can come up with one that's somewhere in the middle. So let's just get a piece of tracing paper. I don't know why my computer and my printer weren't talking to each other. Sometimes electronics just have their own opinion, don't they? Alright, so this piece of tracing paper, this is not the heavier weight tracing paper. I don't know where my heavyweight tracing paper is at the moment. In spite of the fact that I just bragged about how I had everything organized and oh, there it is. It's right where it's supposed to be. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and trace this off, and then I'll see if it's the size I want or if I really do need to resize it. So this is, like I said, this was an ornament hanging on a tree. So let's just give this a quick trace. And I think it was done with in plastic, like a plexiglass. Seemed to be what it was cut out of. There's a little sunflower here. So I'm going to kind of simplify some parts of it. Because I think what they had done is they had done the artwork and then the artwork had been glued onto the plexiglass and then it had been cut out, is what I think. So what I did is I just took a photograph of the little guy. Okay, what is that? Oh, it's a little flower. And this is wheat. Okay. So we're just going to draw lines for the pieces of the wheat. And then we'll turn that into wheat when I paint it or whatever. So I thought we would take a look at, can we make this work? And then we'll paint that other gnome. So when you find inspiration, now clearly this is not something that I could sell because it's not my artwork. It belongs to some other artist. I have no idea who the artist was. There weren't any markings available. But it's for my own personal use. Okay, so let's see. Okay, I think we got the gist of it. Okay. And let's just pick a page in here, like the second page in the book, maybe. And let's just see if I think this will work down here. And I think it would. I think that size is okay down there. And then I also had, I think I showed you this last time, these Thanksgiving napkins that I borrowed a couple extra. So I might use some of that, you know, in a border or pieces or parts of it. But I think that little gnome with sunflowers and some wheat on it, I think that would look really cute there. Yeah. So I think I'll use that one. But for today, let's paint this little guy, shall we? Does that sound good to you guys? I hope so. So this is a disposable palette, but that's acrylic paint that's on it that I wiped off, so I'm just going to use it because I just am. So let's get this little guy ready to paint. He has, you can see some of his face, and this is one of the patterns that I gave you guys. Pardon my head for a second. This is one of the downloads. There's 2 downloads for you. The links are in the description box below the video. So this was my kind of my worksheet, but this is the little guy that's on there. Here's the other one. This is the tree, and they're free downloads. If you guys want them, you're welcome to go get them. The one with the wheat and the sunflower that I just drew off, that's not there because I just saw it the other day. Okay, so the colors we're going to use. We'll work on his little face. I always base coat. If I'm going to work in acrylics, I'm going to use Santa's Flesh, which is a Delta color. I use that for the face. And then, let's see, I like Tomato Spice for their cheeks, and for the like the beards and that kind of thing, I prefer to use light ivory, but I am out of that color. And so to get light ivory, I'll combine antique white and white together to do for his beard and his mustache and that kind of thing. And then I want to do the rest of him so that he's kind of, because he has a cup of hot, you know, tea or cocoa or coffee or something. So we need to do something for his little cup that's kind of a bright color, but kind of autumnal, sort of autumnal looking. So maybe we'll use cadmium yellow for the cup, and then do some shading with a darker color like, I don't know, spicy mustard or raw sienna, probably raw sienna. Use that to shade it. And then I don't know what we'll put in the cup. And then what color do you think we should do for his jacket and his pants? We'll do dark gray or black for his boots. I think I have both. What do you think we should do for his jacket or pants? And pants. Keeping in mind that it's kind of, he's kind of the autumn kind of thing. What do you think? Should we do green? Like a dark green and a medium green? What do you think? Oh, Ruth said green. Look at us being on the same page. Okay, how about if we do forest green? It's a gnome. Forest green. Ta-da! Yeah, forest green. Okay, and then we'll go from there. we might use something like burnt sienna for his shirt or something like that. So we've kind of got our color palette. So there's kind of the color palette. I know I'm making it awkward, but it is awkward. There's no getting around it. It is awkward. Okay, let me grab some water. Deep purple and green. That's a good idea too. Let me get some water. All right, here we go. All right, let's start. Okay, so Santa's flesh. And I know he's not real big, but we're gonna do the best we can here because he's a little guy. And so I just have some paper towels that are not quite used up, and so I'm going to use those. And so I'm using some of the Santa's flesh. Now, things are going to be influenced by what's in the background, but that's acrylic paint back there. And so the acrylic paint by Terry. Oh, hope all goes well. Definitely. This is acrylic paint in the background, so it's not going to move. And if you are doing this, I encourage you to use smaller paint brushes than I use. That's just what I do. I like big paintbrushes because I like to cover the area as quickly as possible. And not a super thick coat, but one that has good coverage. My hand is kind of at a weird angle, so if I look a little less than comfortable, that would be because I am a little bit. That's all right. So there is his little face, which I'm going to let it dry. And while I'm here, I'm going to use a little tiny brush. And I'm going to use the same, oh my voice, sorry you guys. I'm going to use the same, let me get a drink. Okay, maybe that's better, or not. I'm going to use the same color, but with a tiny little brush, because this is a tiny little area to put his little mouth in, because he's got a smiley mouth that is showing under his mustache. Okay. Now, I am painting on the pages inside the book. And the thing is, I run the risk of slopping paint on the cover and all that, and that's a risk I'm willing to take. So, you just kind of sometimes have to just live with what happens. And it may work great, and, then again, I may have some of my efforts showing right on the book. That's why people, yes, it is. It is called Santa's Flesh. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right there. That's the name of it. That is its name. It's the color that I like the best. I have tried all different kinds of flesh tones, and that's the one I like the best. Definitely. Yeah. If I've used medium, let's see, it was a medium flesh tone, and that always went too dark. You got to have something that has some color in it, and this does. It has just enough. And by the time I add shading in his cheeks and all that, the color, for me, the color just comes out to be perfect. Here is a Santa this is an example of what that Santa's flesh looks like once it's been shaded and the cheek color on. It's a very realistic color. The Santa's flesh tone, this base coat, ends up becoming the highlights. So that's what it ends up looking like when it's all done. This is one of Clausman's carvings that I found in my stash that I had the face done, but I didn't have any. The rest of it's just base coated, but not finished. Okay, so I've washed out my brush really well, and I'm going to use a combination of the antique white and white. That's what's here, antique white and just white. And I'm going to just brush mix those together to get that light ivory. And that's what is going to become his beard and mustache. So it's kind of like the Santa's flesh in that you want to start with a color that's fairly light, but you want it to have some color to it. And you don't want it to be just too light or too dark. So I'm going to paint the brim of his hat. And this acrylic paint, because I'm doing a thin coat, will dry very quickly. So there is no danger in butting this light ivory color up right next to the Santa's flesh, to his face. They're not like watercolor in that, they'll bleed into each other. These will not. Okay, smooth coat. Smooth coat of paint. All right, I'm going to leave his mustache alone for a minute. And just paint in his little beard. This is watercolor paper, and so it is pretty this particular brand of watercolor paper, it's the B paper. I just bought it at Walmart. Truthfully, it's what I had in my stash here, so that's why I was using this paper. and it's cold pressed, and it is pretty textured. So I'm going to have to be kind of careful that I get that paint down in the little divots of the paper. And even though his mustache is going to be the same color, I'm going to try to be pretty careful going around, or going right up to his mustache. I'm just going to be real careful, and I'm going to leave his mustache alone, and then I'll paint the mustache in later, just so I can keep the lines. Because sometimes if the lines aren't very dark, trying to make sure I have enough paint in here around the cup and beside the handle, and I think we got it. I'm pretty sure we did. Okay, next we're going to do the bottom part of his beard down here. This is called base coating, and this is the way that I like to work with acrylic paints, whether it's on a wood carving, a resin piece, paper. It's the way that I like to paint. I've tried all different kinds of ways, and I just happen to like the base coated method, which is put on the first coat of color and then come back with the shading. And I use a method that's probably a little bit like watercolor in that I start with almost the lightest color or the lightest color of whatever the area is, and then come over it with the darker colors for shading and that kind of thing. Okay, so we have his little beard, the little fur on his hat, because of course, he's got on a hat with white fur, because he is a gnome, and we could change it, and we could make it more like rabbit fur or something, so it has more brown in it, but we have options. Okay, so let's do his little shirt in the green, and this is forest green. That's a pretty dark green. I may change my mind and go to a little lighter one. I'm just looking here what choices of greens I have on my table. I may do a combination of these two, forest green and green tea. You know what? I don't even know where the ugly woman is. I think I may have donated the ugly woman to the dumpster. I don't know where the ugly woman went, Ruth. And you're right. I'm never going to paint the ugly woman. Yep, I'm never painting the ugly woman. I think she went away. I don't think I kept her. I know, you're all so sad about that. I know you are so sad. I'm going to drop down to a little smaller brush here. We'll just use this one. I really prefer to use an angled brush. However, I don't have one the size that I want, so we're going to use a square flat brush. All right, again, I'm just going to brush mix together a dark green and this super light green to get sort of a medium color green, because I can't go, if I go that dark, I have no place to go to shade it. So we're going to go with that kind of medium to light color green. And I think we'll do his shirt that color. I may have kept the ugly woman. I don't know. She was ugly. Good Lord, that thing was ugly. Ugh. And Clausman used to just taunt me with that ugly woman. It was a carving he did, and oh my goodness, that was an ugly thing. Oh, she was ugly. Ooh. I mean, she'd scare the... Yeah, she'd scare him right. She'd scare anybody. Poor old ugly thing. I don't know whatever possessed him. He was good at carving hillbillies. Most of the time what you guys saw were his Santa Clauses, but he was good at carving hillbillies also, and he did a bunch of hillbillies. But you know, hillbillies and Santas they're very similar actually. You know, the beard color's different, but they're very similar. And he would taunt me with that thing. I'm sorry if my head gets in the way, but I think you can see better on this camera. So that's why you're going to have to put up with my head. But I don't know what possessed him to carve the ugly woman, other than to torture me with flashing it on camera every so often. Her boobs were down to her waist. She had the worst face in the entire world. Oh man, she was ugly. Now I'm going to have nightmares, Ruth. Thanks a lot. Nightmares about the ugly woman. Ugh. She was ugly. Bless her heart. When you work this way, if you get into doing this kind of painting, you do want to take your time. This is not the stage that you want to rush, because if you do this stage well, then everything after this is easy. If you rush at this point, it's like when you prime a wall, okay? It's just like if you prime a wall. If you do a good job priming the wall, the finished coat is going to look great, or it has a chance to look a whole lot better. If you do a crappy job priming the wall, no matter what you do, the finished coat's always going to look equally crappy. So think of this as the priming of the wall, okay? So you want to be neat, you want to be precise, you want to do a really good job painting at this point. Okay, so we have his two little sleeves, and then this part back here This is risky doing this with this big brush, but we're going to go for it and see if we can make it happen. This part back here is his shirt that's kind of flopped over his pants or his legs, because they typically have long, you know, in my vast experience with gnomes, they have long shirts. So their shirts, of course, should come down over their pants, over their legs. Okay, there's that one. And then we've got a little bit more shirt over here. This is kind of, he's a chunky little guy. He's a chunky monkey. Maybe we'll paint his shoes or his boots in brown instead of black. I think it might be better with our color scheme that we've kind of got established here. And then if you go with brown, then you have black to do the shading with, and that's better. Otherwise, if you paint something in black, then you just about the only thing you can use to detail something that's black is to go back with white and or a light gray to do the detail work. So yeah. Okay, I think we're going to do his hat also in this green kind of coloration. I know I gave you this outline of what colors were going to be used for what, and now I don't even remember what I told you. I don't remember what color I was going to use the gold. Where was I going to use the gold? Was that for the mug? So base coat in all the parts. Being as accurate as you can. And because I'm brush mixing two colors together, sometimes I may not pick up the same exact mixture. And I may change the drawing a little bit as I go along here. just because. Just because. Because I kind of like a little slouchier looking hat. Okay, I'm going to have to switch to a different brush here. I'm going to come down to this little round brush, which I don't typically paint with round brushes very much. But that's what we are going to need to do here. Because this is a tiny little area. If you're working with craft paint, which is honestly what I typically paint with, as opposed to for this kind of stuff, I usually use just craft paint. If that's what you're working with and it starts getting sludgy or thick, just don't fight it. The paint's not that expensive. Just squirt out a new puddle of paint. It is not worth trying to save Sorry, my chat went away. It is not worth trying to save paint, a fraction of a cent of paint. It's not worth doing that and frustrating yourself on trying to work with paint that is too difficult to work with. And I don't mind having a little difference in the brush mixing, having a little variety in the greens or whatever colors. That doesn't bother me at all to have a little variety going on. You taunting me, Ruth. Aww. Ruth would never do that to me. I just know it. I just know she would never do that. Okay, let me go. I'm going to go to a different brush. Let's see, let's use a clean one, because I need to go back before my white paint is totally dried up. I'm going to go back and grab some of that mix of antique white and white mixed together to make kind of a light ivory. So it's just off of the white color. Not as stark as white, not as warm as antique white. And I'm going to fill in his little mustache up here. I'm going to do the bulk of it with this brush, and then I'll get the curly end of it with the little round brush here in just a second. If you are painting in a book that you care about, just check your hands to make sure that you don't have too much wet paint that you're carrying around on your fingers that you didn't notice. A lot of people prefer to work in the signatures first and then sew the book together. But you know what? You know what I find is that if I do that, I just never get the book put together. So I find that this works much better for me to put the book together and then just live dangerously. You know, just live dangerously. It's okay. Okay, so we got one side of his mustache. Now we'll get the other side. All right, and then I think I've missed a little tiny bit of his flesh color right here. Okay, I think we got that. So there is what he's looking like so far. All right, I'm going to go ahead and come down here and paint the soles of his feet. And like I said a minute ago, I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to change my mind from brown or from black to a brown. And here it is. I'm going to use some burnt umber. So it's a dark brown. You know, Ruth, I smile most of the time, although it's funny. If I don't have on makeup, people think I'm sick. It's true. It is very true. When I was in college, I used to have people ask me, you know, because I was in college in the 70s. And if I didn't have on makeup, of course, that was an era where, you know, makeup was not real widely used back then. You either used a lot or you didn't use any. I had long, straight, brown hair, super straight. and parted in parted in the middle, no bangs, when I was in college. And so it was not unusual for me not to put on makeup. If I did, it was minimal. And I had more than one person ask me if I wasn't feeling good, because they'd think I was sick. That tells you. That tells you how much I needed makeup. I don't think that's changed. It also hasn't changed that there are days when I'm just too darn lazy to put it on, especially if I'm not leaving home. If I'm going to be working in the house or working online or whatever, yeah, I don't put any on. Then if I have to go out in public, I'm like, oh man. I do feel better with it on too. So that there is that. But do I feel better with it on because I think people are looking at me thinking I'm sick or what? It's a good question. All right, there's the sole of his little boot. Okay, on one foot, his feet are positioned two different directions, so they're probably going to be shaped slightly differently. But anyway, how did I get off on that? Who knows? Doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah, they look pretty close. Okay, so we've got the soles of his little shoes. Are you guys still here? All of a sudden the chat's not moving. Let's test. Okay, looks like we're still live. I'm just chattering along, not watching, then all of a sudden I look up and I go, whoop, what? Is anybody here? Okay. All right, let's come up to his little mittens. I think that's what I was going to do in the yellow and gold. Oh, thank you. Okay, Joan. Good to see you. Have a good weekend. Okay, what I'm going to use is cadmium yellow, and maybe I'll put a little bit of, what was it? Raw sienna in with it, just a little bit, so it tones it just a little bit, because that yellow is really bright. I'll show you. There's the yellow, and that's the raw sienna. That yellow is really bright, so we're going to tone it down just a little bit. And because this is such a tiny little, those mittens are tiny, I'm just going to use this little round brush that I was using a second ago, so I'm going to use it. Not my favorite brush to use, but It'll work. It will work. So kind of a golden yellow ochre kind of color for his little mitten. Okay, now I got another mitten we got to do. I think I was supposed to do this for his cup. Oh well. You know, sometimes you just got to go with the flow. And apparently that's what I'm doing here. I'm going with the flow. We'll decide what color to paint the mug for the very last thing. How about that? Okay, so there's his little, there are his little mittens. They're more yellow ochre in person than what you guys are seeing. And now let's do his little trousers. And because the trouser areas are really small, I'm going to use that same little round brush because everything's pretty little at this point. So I'm going to use this purple. And this color is brilliant purple. Brilliant purple. But remember, you can't go too dark to begin with, because if you go too dark to begin with, you don't have any place to shade. Because if you go too dark to start with, there is no place to go. Alright, you guys be thinking about what color we should do the mug now based on this color scheme we've got going. I could do the mug in that straight yellow. I need to let his little purple pant leg dry, and then I'll bring the curl of his beard back over the top of his pants, because I kind of painted over the top of it, so it looks like his leg is on top of his beard, and that's not good. And then on this side, you're kind of seeing his leg and his bottom. Kind of his leg is a different angle. I know my head's been in the way a lot in this as we're doing this. I'm trying to paint with it tilted to my right. Which is easier said than done, by the way. Okay, so we got his little leg. It's kind of like his knee is kind of pulled up a little bit, and you know, his leg is kind of out to the side. That's what this leg is doing over here. Kind of a wonky little leg over here. Oh, you have one of those faces? I've been accused of that too. Ah, yeah, my son told me one time when we were first recording, he said, "Mom, you can't look like that." And I'm like, "Look like what?" And he said, "You can't look like that face." And then he explained to me what it was. I'm like, I don't mean to look like that. Okay, what color should we do? The cup. What color should we do the cup? What do you guys think? I'm going to wait till I see some suggestions in the chat. What color should we do the face? Or the mug, sorry, mug. I'm going to put the curl of his beard back in down here. Because I want his beard curling over his leg. Red. There's no red in this, though. You think red? Anybody? Anybody? I'm not sure about red. Do you think red? Red to make it pop? Jen! Holy moly! Aussie Grand Jen! How in the world are you? It's good to see you in the chat, my friend. Aussie Gran is in Australia. Good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. So you think orange? Orange? I think we should do orange in honor of Jen being here. What do you think? We have spiced pumpkin. No, that's too close to the other color. Let's go. Let's see what color I have. So good to see you. You've been better. Bless your heart. Dorothy says gold. You guys can't agree on anything. I'm going to do orange in honor of Jen joining us. Yes, I'm going to honor Jen. I'm glad you're here, Jen. I met Jen in person and her husband. Gosh, it seems like that was a lifetime ago. I know it wasn't, but it sure seems like it. That was a good day. Certainly lots of things have changed since then. Jen, I got married again. In fact, I've been married for a whole year. And they said it wouldn't last. Yep, married for a whole year. I know this is hard for you to see, I will give you a much better shot of it here very shortly. And we're just about done with the base coating of this little guy, and we can start doing some details. Okay. The inside of his cup, I'm going to put some raw sienna with it so that it is a darker color than the outside of the cup. And this little cup may be a little bit wonky in shape, but you know what? It's a gnome. I imagine he's using some kind of weird something for a cup anyway. Or whoever made his cup is probably not a master potter. There we go. Okay. I'm doing great. Thank you. It is homemade. Yep. I am doing really well. I married a man that I've known for 50 years. More than 50 years now. I've said 50 years for the last 4 years. And I've known him for a long time. Our kids are about the same age, or, close to the same age. And especially his son and my son are very close to the same age. And yeah, we've known each other a long time, watched each other's kids grow up, and yeah, so it's good. Oh, thank you. Okay, let me show this to you from a different angle, and so you can see what he looks like when he's just base coated. Okay. So far, so good. All right, let's go back over here. And I'm going to see if I can zoom in and then see if I can stay on the camera while I'm doing this. That's always the trick. That's always the trick, to stay on camera while I do this. Okay. All right, let's start with his face, because once you develop the character of the face, that from there on, they just sort of come into their own. So I'm going to squirt out the tiniest little bit of tomato spice red, which is this one, Tomato Spice by Delta Ceramcoat. And then I'm going to squirt out a little bit of burnt sienna. The brand of burnt sienna that I much prefer is Folk Art, but I'm out of that one. So we're going to use this, which is Americana. It'll work. I'm just picky about the brand and the kind of paint I use, that's all. But if you don't have it, you gotta make do. Okay? So I will show you these two colors because they are very, they're not, one's just redder than the other one. Slightly. This is burnt sienna, which is a red brown. This is the tomato spice red. I like this one for doing cheeks and things because it doesn't go too pink. All right, let's do, I'm going to live dangerously and use this big brush. I'm going to live dangerously. All right, the first thing I'm going to do is shade his little face. So I dampen the brush and dab it off on a paper towel. then I pick up the corner, the long corner on an angled brush, pick up the corner, the long corner, blend it on the palette. Because the brush is damp, it will make this soft blend with the bulk of the color next. It's like a stripe almost on the long part of the brush. And then you got to pay attention to where that color is. So it is on the long edge, and I'm going to lay that in, coming around his nose. You got to work quickly when you do this, otherwise it will dry on you. And hopefully I haven't waited too long. Then I use the damp brush. And I blend that edge. And I waited a little too long, so I'm going to have to come back with some of the Santa's flesh on top of it, which my studio space today, the broadcasting area, is pretty warm, and so things are drying a little faster than I would like for them to dry. Normally I don't come back on top of it with another color of paint. Usually I blend it just with water. But if it doesn't work, then you change it up. Okay? So we want that color, the point is we want that color to be soft, that stripe of color to be soft. All right, let's see if we can do it a little better on this side. That's better. The top part is shaded better than the bottom, but it's okay. We will make it work. And I'm going to put a little bit of the shading around the side of his face. Okay. All right. Not perfect, but you know, it's good enough. It's a Christmas, holiday, Thanksgiving, etc. journal, so we're not gonna stress over things not being too perfect. A little bit of shading in where his mouth is open. And that's all we're going to do on that. No, that's not all we're going to do on that. Sorry, we got to shade the bottom edge of his nose. Okay. I'm going to come in with a little bit, this is not normal for me to do, but I'm going to come back in here and put some of the Santa's flesh back in here again, because I wiped a lot of that lightness away when I came in there and shaded. It's a tiny little area. Okay, that's not bad. Not bad. I can live with that. I'm going to do the same thing, loading the brush with tomato spice, but really blending this out on the palette. So I'm really blending it so it's just barely there. I'm going to put this on the top of his nose. just to let his nose kind of have a little bit of a rosy glow up there. And then I'm going to do the same thing in the area of his cheeks. So a little bit of rosiness. I'm having trouble with my paint here today. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so we have a little rosiness for his little cheeks. All right, and then we'll let those dry a minute. And let's shade his beard and his hat band and all that kind of stuff. Let's do that next. He's at work today. He's at work today. Yeah. He is still practicing law, so he is at work. Okay. Getting some fresh paper towels. All right, let's shade his beard. Since we're staying in kind of a warm-ish tone, I'm going to shade his beard. Sometimes I shade with gray, sometimes I shade with tan. Let's use this. Let's go with this fawn color, so it's just a kind of a tan color, if there's anything in the bottle. If not, I'll get something else. Okay, there's some. Not a lot, but there's some. Alright, I'm going to use a small brush. I'm going to side load it the same way I just showed. And I'm going to come across the bottom of his hat, or the bottom of the hat band, and up the sides. And I'll let the top edge be stay the way it is. Keep losing my chat. Okay. And now we're going to we're just going to work our way down his, the white parts of him. So next up is his little mustache. So the part of his mustache that's going to be kind of the lowest is going to be down here. So we're going to put a little bit of that down here. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. we've got his little mustache. Need to get this side just a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so we got his little mustache, we got his hat band, and now I need to go to a little bigger brush to get the color to do what I want it to do, not to be too stripy, kind of soft. Bigger brush really helps with that. Okay, and a wet brush to follow. All right, here we go. And I know it's upside down for you, but that's what it's going to have to be for me to be able to do this. So I'm switching back and forth between the brush that has the color on it and the water brush, which is just damp. It's not wet, it's just damp. And sometimes I'm going to catch color, or the color in what I'm painting is influenced by what's underneath on the page. So you kind of got to be able to roll with the punches on that. Okay? All right. Don't you like how I ask and answer my own questions? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. Reload the brush with the shading color on the long end of the brush. And I'm going to come right down where his arm is, right next to his arm, making sure that I'm blending that inner edge of color. I don't want that inner edge of that color to be a stripe, because you saw what happened on his face. It did turn into a stripe, and that doesn't work very well. And I'm trying to leave the center part of his beard that light color. And then you can't forget about this little part inside the cup, the mug handle. Okay? And then we're going to come down here to the bottom. If you guys want to hang with me, I will continue painting this until it is done. But it's going to be a little while, so you're going to have to be a little patient. I will pick up some speed here, though, and we'll see if we can do it a little more quickly. Yeah, the shading makes a huge difference. Okay, so there we have his little beard. So we've got the top, that band of his hat, his mustache, and his beard done. Okay? And then, before I get too far, I'm going to put in his little lip, because we put in the shading for his mouth, but we need to put in his little lip. So I'm going to pick up some of that tomato spice red, but we can't use just tomato spice red, because if we do, it's going to look like he has on lipstick, and he does not. So I'm just going to mix some of the tomato spice red and some of the Santa's flesh, and you get kind of this fleshy pink color. And then I got to turn the book so I can do this. And it's a little too fleshy, so we're going to put a teeny bit more of the tomato spice. Still a little too much the same color. Can always knock the red back a little bit with a little bit of a shading color if I need it once we get everything else done. Okay, so he's got a little lip, which we'll see what it looks like when it dries. Okay, let's go to, while we're here and we're in this detail stuff, let's do his little mug. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade it with the tomato spice red, so we do get some red into his cup. Let's see what that looks like. Basically what this is going to act like is a tint or an accent to just change up the color a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to pick up a little burnt sienna. What you try to do is to use the same colors throughout the image. It will make, it keeps it cohesive if you use the same colors. So we've already used burnt sienna and the tomato spice. So I'm going to shade the handle of his mug with a little more, this time with a little burnt sienna in it. So it still has the red, but because it's a little bit more behind the cup, that's why I chose the brown. Now I'm going to put the same colors into the edge of the cup. So it makes it look like maybe there's something in the cup. Okay. All right. So far, so good. And his little eyes are just going to be two little curved lines that are going to go, they're going to go like this and like this. So like, okay, terrible demonstration. His little eyes are going to look like this. Okay, so that's why we're not doing anything to the eyes, because they're going to go in and just be like that. Okay, next, let's do his little pants, and I'm going to use a dark gray. As soon as I put my hand on it, that's black, and that's green. Could have sworn I had a gray out here. Well, we'll just use black. That's okay. I can always put a little white in it if I really want it to be gray. This is very dark. It's a dark brown, and we don't need a whole lot, but we do need a little bit. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of black. Put it on the side of the brush just like I did for everything else. I've side loaded the brush with the black. And I'm going to put the black just around the outside edge and the bottom. It just gives it, you might not look at it and go, oh, there's shading on his foot, but I think it really makes a difference. And so I just kind of have to add it, you know, kind of do. All right, let's do his little purple pants. And this time I'm going to use that brown, the burnt umber, the dark brown, because that's what's in his shoes. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put a little, I'm going to use a small brush because we're in a small area. Same thing, side load the brush so it's on the long side of the angled brush. And I'm going to place that right next to his shoe. That's not showing up. Let's try again. Sometimes I blend it out a little too much. Alright, that's still not showing up. So we're going to have to drop down and add a little black into it. And again, on camera, you may or may not be able to see that. Same thing over here, a little shading back there in his pant leg, and over here next to his shoe. In the bottom part of his leg. This leg is the one that's the most visible. So it's coming up side of his leg and a little bit up here next to the beard. Don't want too much, because if I put too much in there, then it takes away all the purple. I wanted a dark purple, but I don't want to take away all the purple. I do want it to be nice and dark though. Okay, and now let's do his little mittens, because we have his little mittens next to his shirt. Need a little bit of something something, so let's use a little let me go back to the raw sienna. I'll probably use a little raw sienna and burnt sienna. Raw sienna is more golden. Burnt sienna is redder. Sometimes I like to use the two together. It just sort of depends on my mood, quite frankly. Okay, so we're going to put this right next to where his little mitten meets his sleeve, and it's going to come around just a little bit. So it just gives his little mitten a little bit of like it tucks into his sleeve perhaps, and toward the bottom edge it just helps make his little mitten or his little hand look a little bit rounder, a little bit more round. Well, I'm telling you, I'm going to have my fill of sports this weekend. We are going to a basketball game tonight. We're going to a football game tomorrow afternoon. And we're going to another basketball game on Sunday. I'll tell you what, that's a lot of sports in one week. And last night, we went to a volleyball game. Yep, we did. At the end of this weekend, I think I will be ready for a sports break. Hi, Barbara. Good to see you. No kidding. One of those days. No worries. Okay, let us shade his hat and his little sleeves, and then we'll decide if we want to decorate him or just outline him or what we want to do. So my palette is pretty well filled up, so I'm trying to look for a clean spot. Okay, so now we're going to use forest green, which was the green that we used a combination of greens to get a color for his shirt and hat. Forest green was one of those colors, so I'm going to use straight forest green and see how it looks. Let's see how it looks. So I have my shading brush. I'm side loading it with the forest green. This may not be dark enough, but we're going to try it. Okay, so there's my color. Damp brush also ready to go. Let's come up here and let's try it. Brush is not wet enough. The brush has to have water in it or this doesn't work, but it cannot be dripping. It can only be, it is a real Goldilocks thing. It's got to be damp, but not too damp. And if you end up with a stripe on that inner edge, stripe of color, you got to chase that out right away. If you don't have another chance. Then you're going to be painting over it, just like I had to do with his little face. Yep. It's just like that. Okay, this is risky business right here. Trying to do this with a brush that is 10 times too big. But I say, why not? Okay. Now, we're going to leave that little curl alone because that little curl is too tiny. Too tiny for words. Sorry, I'm getting off screen. Didn't mean to do that. I'm going to do this little slouch of his hat. And I'm going to give him another slouch right about there. And then I'm going to see about giving him another slouch right there. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to do one more little, staying away from that tiny curl at the end of his hat. Let's see if we can give him just a little bit of shading out here. It just helps with the shape. Okay. I think we got it. I think he's got kind of a little slouchy little hat thing going on. Okay, good enough. Moving on. We're not going to do this all day long. All day, all night. All right, let's come down here. Same thing. We're going to reload the brush. Forest green. We're going to come down here to the inside, right below, right next to the beard and right next to where his arm bends over. That's going to be mostly dark right there. The part that's on the other side of his arm, that's down next to his leg and foot, is also going to be mostly dark. Okay. And then I'm going to let that sit for a minute. I'm going to come over to the other side, his other arm, and we're going to do, let's see, I got to turn it around because I got to get it where I can get the brush in there to it. This part right here next to the beard and next to his arm. But I don't want to paint it all the dark green. I just want to try to leave some of the light green out at the outer edge. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Sorry, I'm not watching the chat right now because I'm trying to push this and get this done. I reloaded the brush. I'm going to come down here to the part of his shirt that's under his arm and add a little shading down there so it has a little different color from his sleeve at this moment. Okay, now this part over here should be dry by now, so I'm going to reload the brush with the same forest green, and let's see, I want to come next to his little mitten, and then I want to bring it around his arm but mostly I'm concentrating on where it touches his little mitten and where his arm goes around his body. And that just helps to make his arm go somewhere and not just stop on a line. I know, it's kind of one of those picky little things. You could get much pickier than I am being, believe me. Go over this next to his sleeve one more time. This is okay. I think we've got him. Okay, lost my chat again. Hold the phone. There we go. Okay, so that is the shading, and I don't think we need to do any highlighting. I wouldn't mind at least putting a few polka dots on him. You know, I just like polka dots. I just do. And technically, I probably should have done the polka dots before I shaded him. But we're going to pretend I did, okay? Pretend with me. Because we need to make him go together, and right now he's not really going together so much. So I'm using the same orange that I used in his mug. And just putting little things of 3 polka dots, little sections of 3 polka dots, little groups. And just sometimes they're just barely there. Okay, so that's all we're going to do up there on his hat. We'll add a few down here. Down on his sleeve. When your polka dotting tool gets to where it's not cooperating, then clean it off. And I'm not okay with these not all being the same intensity because some of these things are under other things. Okay, so we have some orange polka dots on him, which kind of integrates things. And then I'm going to pick up the purple and just put a single polka dot here and there. In the purple. To bring the purple from his pants up into the rest of him. Okay. Okay, so we've got some polka dots on him. So that kind of integrates things together there a little bit. And then I'm going to take a tiny, I know I'm way over at the time that I normally stream. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the purple with the liner, not a liner brush, but a little tiny round brush. It's not a liner brush. Could be. It's not. And just put just a little suggestion of a pattern on his mug. Okay, so his little mug has a little bit of a pattern on it. Okay, so at that point, I think I'm just looking to see if there's anything else I really want to do. Things are looking pretty good to me as far as him being integrated color-wise. I just want to put a little highlight on the bottom of his shoe. Because I needed to get that gold somewhere else besides only on his mittens. So we'll do that. And if that ends up to be brighter than I want it to be, I'll go back over it with a little bit of the brown. Okay, now at this point, what has to happen is he has to fully dry. Let me switch cameras here. He has to, I'm trying to not pick up my book with painty hands. He has to fully dry. Come up here like this so you can see. So he has to completely dry, and then I will come back over him with an outline, but I can't do that right now because even though it appears to be dry, it's not completely like crispy dry. One other thing I want to do is to give him a place to sit. So I got to turn the book so I can get my hand at an angle. I know this is going to be a real screwy angle for you to look at. However, we got to give him a place to sit. Right now he's floating, and that's not good because he should not be floating up in the air. So I'm going to come in here with burnt umber, side loaded on the brush. And we're going to come around his beard. And around his foot. And just let this kind of brush out to just be part of the page, hopefully. And it's fairly straight. May not be perfect, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Okay? So now he has a place to sit. You just want him, Jen. You just want him. So he's going to be the introduction to the book. And he's going to be the... he's going to introduce us then to the next page, which the next page is going to have this little Thanksgiving elf that I saw. This was like a cornucopia, and this is like wheat. It was an ornament that I saw hanging on a tree. So he's going to be on the next page. But this is our introduction. So what he has left to do is to get his eyes and to get the outline on the rest of him. And the outline will help make him stand out a little bit. The outline should just be a complement to the whole thing. It's not meant to fix anything. Speaking of fix, I missed a little. I just realized I missed a tiny little part of the shading right in there. Gotta have, if you're gonna have something for him to sit on, you can't leave out even the tiniest little spot. Yeah. Okay. So from a distance or a different angle, how about that? There is our little guy. I think he's looking pretty cute. So the outline, what the outline does is acts like the camera lens. You know, right now he's in soft focus, and then the outline is like when the photographer changes that lens just a little bit and brings him into focus. That's what the outline does. So anyway. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here, Jen. Come back anytime, okay? Absolutely anytime. Come join us. I'm streaming twice a week on Monday nights and Friday afternoons here in U.S. time. 2 o'clock Eastern on Monday. No, 2 o'clock Eastern on Friday. 7 o'clock Eastern on Monday. I always switch those in my mind for some reason. You'd think I was dyslexic. I don't think I am, but I do have some some tendencies that direction, I think. Anyway, okay. I know soft focus is good for all. It's like when you lay down, you know. You lay down on the pillow and you look great laying down, don't you? As long as you don't raise your arm and look at your arm, everything's good, you know, because gravity's amazing. Anyway, it's good to see you all. Thank you for being here today. I will be back on Monday evening. Wish me luck with all the sporting events I'm going to this weekend, that I survive and that I don't freeze or get wet at the ball game tomorrow. It's supposed to have a good chance of rain. Yay! Thank you guys. I will see you before you know it. Remember to get creative today, because you know it's easy. It's easy. You just got to do it. And I will see you Friday, Monday, and then Friday. Oh, I'm telling you, I'm a little tired. See you guys later. Bye.